Hi everyone, it's Raina. So this video is if you have your natal Mercury in conjunction with Pluto. Mercury is the planet that is connected with communication as well as the way that the mind works. So this can be the way that you process information, and processing information, even before that, taking in information, because before you can process it, you have to take it in. Well, as we all know, some people have a distorted sense of the information that they are getting from others. And so that creates confusion when it comes to the way that they perceive what other people are saying. So the communication can be distorted. But that's not necessarily what we're talking about here. That would be more with Neptune. With Pluto, this conjunction is like having Mercury in Scorpio. And Pluto is this planet that is very probing. And it feels like there's more to the story. So when we're talking about that contact with Mercury, because it's a conjunction, it really heightens how these two planets interact and what they are all about together. And there is this desire to get to the bottom of something. Now, before I continue, I just want to give a shout out to cafeastrology.com, where I pulled up their information about this conjunction. And so it's funny because I was just talking off the top of my head and I happened to look and I saw that they said desiring to get to the bottom line. But it's like, whenever there is contact between Mercury and Pluto, regardless of the angle, there's going to be that search for deeper meaning. And by the same token, the person is a very deep thinker. So that's why I say this is like having Mercury in Scorpio, which is not frivolous. Scorpio is a sign that is very much about what lies beneath the surface, the taboos, the secrets, the the secrets that people are holding because it's a shadow self, but also mysteries of the universe. So it can be probing the reason that, death is associated with the eighth house that Scorpio rules. So what are the death is such a mysterious thing, and yet it's kind of always just waiting for us, right? I mean, just there, and we still have to face it. So what I would say first and foremost is that you may be kind of like a detective in terms of the way that your mind works, or an investigative reporter might even be a better way of looking at it. And truth be told, if other factors support it, maybe if you have this conjunction in the third house, which is associated with the media, you might actually do just that and become an investigative reporter. We don't have too many of those nowadays. Those of you who are younger are more used to so-called journalists that editorialize, but not those that are like trying to get the deeper story and not just believing everything they hear. So I don't have this situation going on, but I have the sun in the eighth house. When you have inner planets in the same house or the same sign, or any variation thereof, you're going to get similar themes coming up. And I can see how I am like that, how I'm always probing, giving the third degree, and I didn't even realize that. I also have the moon in conjunction with Pluto. So those of you who are maybe you have planets in Scorpio itself. You know what I mean. I can only imagine how um, the people with this combination or that also have Scorpio placements can approach life. And when you're questioning, you're going to question other people. And so you're having these relationships with people and you're giving off a lot of suspicion. And this can be a bone of contention with others because they feel that you are overdoing it, you don't trust them, and people don't like that because it makes them feel like they are automatically suspect when they didn't do anything wrong. And so being mistrustful is something that can be a liability for you, not only because it will turn off other people, but because it will lessen your happiness. When you feel that there must be something that somebody is doing, you have to ask yourself, what is the deeper fear in that? And usually it will be something due to abandonment, something due to somebody who is trying to deceive you. Why would they be doing it? Ultimately, you might be feeling that they are going to leave you somehow. And yet you create this self-fulfilling prophecy by such obnoxious behavior for doing it. There's an obsessive quality to this conjunction. And like I said, if you have some kind of a bee in your bonnet and you really feel like somebody's up to something, you're not going to leave any stone unturned. But the problem is that your mind may be playing tricks on you in some cases. And there may be periods of time when you tend to be more, I feel like there are times when you may go into this type of behavior, and then other times when you're much more live and let live. And, it might be when you're feeling less secure overall that you tend to be. So you could look at it as a form of control as well. So another thing that this can be is a person who is skeptical. And again, there are positives to to these situations as well. When I talked about being mistrustful, well, the positive of that is that you're less likely to be gullible. You're less likely to believe whatever you hear. For the situation regarding being skeptical, that means that you are thinking for yourself. And if you are obtaining information from an outer source, you're doing so without just buying into everything that is being presented in front of you. And that's what true research is. This is a great, the conjunction is a great aspect for somebody who is a researcher, because you like digging deep means that you're going to not just be content with superficial information, but there's the when I talk about the getting to the bottom of something, it also means the root cause or the essence of something. And this, when you just think of the pure focus, the pure function of the mind, being able to focus is a big deal, and you have that. Maybe it might be a little bit threatened if this conjunction is in Gemini, for instance, or something that's very flighty. But even with that, it can nail down the more ADD tendencies and make the person more persistent when it comes to concentrating on one thing at a time. Another thing is having a more serious mindset. Just like people with Mercury in Scorpio or Pluto in the third house, which is ruled by Mercury, there is I haven't seen it on here, but I'm sure if I scroll down, I might see it on this website, cafeastrology.com. I might see something that has to do with not liking small talk, because I think that that's a big one with this. There's gravitas with mental functioning and the topics of interest. It's not that frivolous quality. Sometimes I'm thinking, since Gemini and Virgo are both ruled by Mercury, Gemini in particular, the ruler of the third house, is really a sign that loves trivia and also just gossiping and things that are very superficial to talk about, like, tabloid stuff. Actually, anything that Gemini can think of to talk about, the news. Scorpio, or Mercury in conjunction with Pluto, is much more interested in weighty matters. But I want to get back to one thing that I said because I think I misspoke just slightly. When I was talking about the skepticism, it's really about skepticism of things that seem simplistic. Okay. It's funny that Cafe Astrology said anything that appears superficial or overly straightforward. Well, that's what simplistic means. And I have been correcting people because I have a tendency that they use the word simplistic to mean simple. You can say simple things, but simplistic is kind of insulting. It means that something is overly simple, so it's superficial. And so this is the kind of thing that you naturally distrust. Anything that is too facile. You believe that I think you gravitate towards more complex people, places, and things than things that are very simple, because when things are kind of hidden below the surface, it is that is where complexity comes in. And since Pluto is one of the rulers of Scorpio, I always think that Scorpio is a very complex sign, because there's and that's why Scorpio people often are misunderstood, because people just see one aspect of them and they judge. And you can't do that. You have to see the whole kit and caboodle. But so I would say too that this person is an obsessive type of thinker. So you might get some kind of idea in your mind, and then you just want to learn as much as you can about it. Or if it's, let's say it's somebody that you decide that you really are into, like a famous person, then you may try to just find every piece of information like a researcher again. And the obsession can just kind of consume you, because there's a power behind it, just when we think of obsession in general. And another thing, I'll just read the sentence verbatim from the website. You live in a sea of mental symbolism. And another verbatim sentence. Others may find you too suspicious, too challenging, or too secretive. One thing, when you're having conversation, of course, Mercury is going to involve conversation. It's a give and take. We know that. One person can't just ramble on and have the other person be a captive audience. There has to be an interest in hearing what other people have to say as well as sharing. But the sharing has to come from an authentic place and an open place. If you are withholding information, which I think is a very natural impulse for this conjunction, people will sense that by and large, I think. They will know that there's something more to the story, especially if they have some kind of placements that are similar to yours, then you're really going to get busted for that. But people tend not to trust people who are secretive because they feel they have something to hide. And the other thing, I think when they were talking about living in the sea of mental symbolism, now that I think about it, John Lennon had Mercury in Scorpio. So that's kind of a similar thing as Mercury in conjunction with Pluto. And he started getting into numerology, and everything was a sign. And just so those kinds of conversations can get kind of convoluted, not to mention kind of silly, if there's if you're taking what other people say and constantly trying to read between the lines, it can get pretty tedious. And the other person may feel like they're being just analyzed mercilessly. Okay, let me see. I'm trying to see if there's anything more. Okay, well, they said that you enjoy a good mystery. And macabre, they mentioned art forms that are macabre. So Edgar Allan Poe, anyone? I mean, that would probably be one of your favorite authors, or other gothic or horror stories, mystery stories. They mentioned clever plot twists, and that's because if something takes you by surprise that you didn't expect, you can kind of strategize yourself. But you may have expectations that something's going to go one way and it goes another in a novel or a movie or something like that, and that's very entertaining to you. They mentioned being cutting, which means that you're, in your speech, which means, kind of having sharp words with people, and also sarcasm. Um, I that's kind of interesting because I wouldn't necessarily say that. I think more sardonic, something that kind of that dark humor, or the kind of, yeah, things like that, rather than sarcasm. The cutting, yes. And again, John Lennon had these tendencies with Mercury and Scorpio, saying things that are very to the quick, cutting to the quick. Because one thing they haven't mentioned here, which shocks me, is about psychological insight into the nature of other people. And I feel that making cutting remarks goes right along with that, because the person, I feel like people like you can almost like instantly size up another person after you talk to them for a few minutes, and you can kind of get their basic sense of emotional patterns or emotional reactions. And for whatever reason, if you are dealing with somebody and you really care about how they're going to react, you might sense whether or not they're kind of pushovers, and you may respond in kind to that and sometimes be quite, I don't want to say mean or anything like that, but or cruel, but cutting a little bit too close. But just psychological, maybe being good at psychology and wanting to heal other people, because Pluto, to me, ultimately, when it's operating in the positive sense, is a natural healer. And so this is really a good combination for people who are definitely good for somebody who's trying to research, who is, gathering information. And I think it's most challenging in personal relationships. When somebody has contacts to Pluto or, Scorpio placements, they have to be very careful about not using them as a weapon against others, because there can be that ability to manipulate at the highest level. And by the way, sometimes I feel like it's not even a case of them doing it deliberately. It's just like a natural, maybe it's a natural defense mechanism to try and get the other person to, back down or something like that. But I think this conjunction is great for people who are investigative reporters, mystery writers, researchers, and psychologists in particular. Okay, that's what I have for you. I hope that this resonated if you have this conjunction. And if you would like a private reading, I have double readings that are more extensive, and they are at a special price because you're buying two in one, but they're full-length readings. And then I have standalone readings as well. You can find out more information at the link below. Take care. Bye.